Did you feel complete? No. Did you have a bond? No. Were you so madly in love when she was first born? No, I didn't. Need to talk about this. Welcome to my living room, slightly different setting. This video is a little bit closer to the heart because it's one of those things that I know damn well there are so many people out there who would have felt exactly the same as I did and have done in a few different segments throughout Jax's life so far. She's 9 months old, she's not that old as yet. I've still got a lot more to learn. But I know they probably wouldn't have spoken about this or felt that it was a normal feeling. And some people might still disagree with me and go, that's not normal, you need to see someone, or whatever. Absolutely have at it. One thing that I've learned through being a parent is that everybody's got an opinion. Don't worry, I'm not here to be a parent warrior and tell you how you should raise your kids. Totally up to you, we're all winging it. Don't pretend that you've got your crap together, because none of us have. We're all just having fun and learning along the way. But this is basically just some of my feelings and emotions and experience that, you know, specifically, don't get me wrong, again, I have to protect myself nowadays on social media because you get attacked for everything. This isn't a video about men over women, this, that and the other. I'm just a man and this is just my experience. I have so much love and respect and all the rest of it for women, but I can't talk for women because I'm not one. Alright, so it's not about sexism and all that kind of stuff and the males or race. It's just one of those things that men don't tend to talk, and I want them to talk a little bit more because you know what, it's alright. It's alright to be vulnerable. Alright, we don't have to bottle everything up just because we're men, you know? It's a modern world. Jax was born 9 months ago, and everybody has been asking, or was asking, when she was first born, how do you feel? Do you feel complete? My life's complete. Life completed it. Do you feel content? Do you feel, how much do you love her? I bet you just want to squeeze her. I bet you just want to do this. You just want to do that. Honestly, the only feelings that myself and Jax had in common in that birthing suite were fear and vulnerability. Both of us were so far out of our comfort zone. I've never been that far out of my comfort zone, and I had no tools. I wasn't equipped with any tools in order to deal with it. It was a real, it sounds really a bit floaty and a bit out there, but it was a real out-of-body experience for me, and it was for her. She was out of my wife's body. That's a real out-of-body experience. But there's so many of these Disney movies and stuff out there that kind of has this whole thing around a child being born and there's this light coming off them and they're a gift from God. And it's such a huge thing that when you don't feel that initial, oh my God, I just want to squeeze you, I feel so close to you, you feel like you're depressed and you feel like something's wrong with you, and you're not. Because on a real basic level, your life has just completely flipped 180 in front of you, right? And I think too many people out there, especially guys as well, because especially if your partner's going to breastfeed or bottle feed, the first thing that happens is, oh, we need to get them on the boob because we need to establish that bond. And I'm like, great, I've got a chest over here, I'm ready. You know, we don't really have, like I said, I don't have the tools to really have that initial connection. And I think a lot of people, you know, I always talk about Disney movies, you watch all these things and you're like, it's the same fantasy that causes people to feel unhappy all the time and feel like there's something wrong with them. And I definitely felt like that. I sat there and I was like, am I like postnatally depressed here? Is there something wrong with my head, or is this a mistake? You know, so many different things went through my head. But you know, all it was that I just didn't know what to do. And there's nothing wrong with not knowing what to do. So I think it's one of the first points I want to make is that if you don't feel like your world has just been completed and your baby has this beautiful ray of light coming off it when it's first born, don't instantly presume that something's wrong. It's just, you've just had all of your guard that you may well have worked on for however long completely stripped down in one instant, and it takes a minute. You need a minute to breathe and adjust to that. So you're not losing your mind, you're not postnatally depressed, but that's honestly how I felt. You know, the initial bond, love, everything like that, it wasn't there straight away. The only love and bond that I had in that room at the time was actually with Carly. That was the biggest thing that grew in that experience, where I was like, wow, what a woman. That was, honestly, that was it. In terms of Jax, I was just like, I don't know what to do. That was the first point where I was like, wow, this is a little bit crazy. It didn't last long, don't get me wrong. Once I changed a couple of nappies, given her a bath and everything like that, I was like, okay, cool, I've established a role. It really helps that that healing process, because it is a trauma that you go through regardless of who's doing the birthing. It's a huge trauma. You have to see, if you're not birthing, you have to see your partner in a lot of pain and discomfort in an environment that is heightened. So there is some healing that has to happen, and it's not all just physical, it's sometimes emotional. And for me as a dad, one of the things that I found really helped me, because I was struggling with that bond and that connection, was doing more things with her, changing her nappies, taking her for walks, giving Carly a little bit of a break, helping put her to bed. Silly little things like that just helped me be part of the process, because there's a lot of guys, sorry to bag on guys here, but there's a lot of guys, I even speak to guys all the time, and they use every excuse they can to not be involved. Oh, well, she's breastfeeding, there's not really much for me to do. Do you really think that only form of being a parent is about feeding the child? Come on. You know, it's just this old-fashioned thing that guys are just left by the wayside. I think we leave ourselves by the wayside sometimes because we're crippled with fear. You know, this initial thing happens in the delivery suite and we don't know what to do with it afterwards, so we just try and box it, and you push yourself further and further and further away, and do you know what happens? Resentment, and it causes issues. And I always say that, you know, a lot of people say if you can get through your 4th trimester together, you know, the first 8 to 12 weeks of birth after having your little one, as a relationship, you're going to be all right. But so many relationships break down in that period of time, and I don't think it's through not loving each other anymore. I think it's through one parent going one way and the other one just kind of just standing there and going, I don't really know what to do, so I'm not going to do anything. And it just causes this resentment to build up. And luckily we didn't get to that point. You know, luckily we were a very good team and still are to this day. But there's these mental leaps that I didn't know anything about. You know, we talk about real fundamental things with children, when they walk, when they crawl, when they get their first teeth and they start eating food and they start weaning, right? And then when they go to college, and then we don't have to look after them anymore, they can pay for themselves. You know, really big milestones in life, right? Really big things. But what you don't understand is there's a lot of developmental leaps in that period of time as well. There's times where, for instance, they get a perception of distance, they get a perception of sound, they get a perception of being left alone, and all these kind of things that I didn't know anything about it. Maybe I should have done a little bit more research, whatever. But we've got this app called Wonder Weeks where it counts and it tells you roughly when they're going to have a mental leap, what to expect, right? So we got to this point where Jax went into this leap, suddenly was crying all the time. I was like, why is she crying all the time? Every single time I picked her up, she cried. Every time I held her, she cried. Gave her to Carly, she would stop. And I was like, going straight back to the delivery suite, back to this point where I was like, I don't know what to do. And it wasn't, you know, my ego took a bit of a batter in here. I was going, oh, she just bloody hates me, this is crap, I don't want to be a dad anymore. You know, I had all the little sulks and moans and all the rest of it that you would, it's just natural. But when I actually understood what she was going through mentally, there was so much activity popping off up in here that I'm not surprised she felt overwhelmed, and all she wanted was comfort. She wanted to be where she was the last time she felt that vulnerable and unsure and scared, which was when she was first born and she was on Carly's breast, wonderful breast that it is. And it took me a while to get used to that. The first couple of leaps I really struggled, where I was like, I'm just being left by the wayside, she doesn't like me, the bond isn't there, this, that and the other, it's because you're breastfeeding. You know, I even got to the point where I felt like I was, in some ways, in a backhanded way, blaming Carly, but it wasn't her fault, and it wasn't Jax's fault, and it wasn't my fault. It was just the growing process. And I think a lot of guys out there should really know about this, and a lot of parents as a whole, because it can be scary when suddenly their little one just cries all the time, or doesn't want to be put down, or suddenly doesn't want to sleep. You know, all these things can happen as they're jumping forward mentally, and it's not, their only changes are not just these physical things that people share all over their Facebook. Oh, look at Charlie, Charlie's crawling now. A lot happened before Charlie crawled, a lot. And we need to kind of get that out there so people know a little bit more what to expect and can deal with that a little bit better. So I'll say, in terms of like the bond, in terms of me now feeling at 9 months fully able with Jax. You know, able's a really poor word, but in terms of Carly's been away quite a lot, I've been away quite a lot, I can come and go, I can be involved, I can be left with Jax all day, every day, and not really have a worry with her. It took me about 6 to 7 months, right? Some people will, it might be shorter or longer depending on the circumstances and how much one-on-one time they get with the little ones. But that was through going through a couple of leaps, doing certain things that weren't necessarily, not necessarily wrong, but they weren't helping her specifically. So in terms of her sleep routine, we brought in a sleep routine because suddenly she was getting really unsettled and not napping and then not sleeping through the night. We had to change that, which again made us feel like we weren't really doing it right, and we went back to the start. And it got to about 6 months where I was like, right, okay, cool. I know what she's like. I know her signs when she's tired. I know her signs when she's hungry. I know her signs when she needs changing, or the smells. Pretty easy. You know, you get into this rhythm of a basic level where you're like, right, okay, so if it all goes wrong now and she suddenly decides she doesn't want to sleep, I've got a protocol for that. If she suddenly doesn't like this food, I've got a protocol for that. There's simple little things that you learn. So that first 4 to 6 months, I felt like every time something went wrong, I mentally instantly went straight back to the birthing suite. Whereas now, I feel like I go back to about 5 or 6 months, which is, I think, I don't know. Let me know. Is that how you deal with it as parents? Because like I say, we're all learning, we're all trying all these different things and trying to get to that next level of what we classify as a nice routine and everything like that. Jax is probably going to flip it on his head so many times from now to the next 10 to 15 years that I won't know which way is up. But it's one of those things that I think it might seem quite simple to a lot of people, and they might go, why the hell would you feel the need to share that? But if I wasn't as, and I'm going to big myself up here, if I wasn't as mentally aware and switched on as I am with certain things, or very good at kind of taking myself away from a situation and assessing it rather than just trying to box it and put it away and avoid it, I think I could have gone down a very rough route when it came to Jax in the first 4 to 6 months. I could have easily been quite resentful and quite selfish about what I was missing and not being able to train as much as I want to, or my sleep was upset, or I was putting all this effort and I was getting nothing back because there was no eye contact, no smiles, no directiveness towards me. You know, those kind of things can really build up if you're a bit of a selfish character, I guess, or you just don't really know what's going on, you're not really in the situation. But yeah, that's it. You know, some people might think there's not a point, but that is my point. And I hope it helps. If there's anyone out there who is struggling in any way, do feel free to get in contact with me. I'm not going to turn around and teach you how to parent, because that is not my place. I would just give you my experience in a little bit more depth if there's anything in particular that you're struggling with and I can relate, or it resonates with you or anything, just let me know. Otherwise, continue the conversation down below. It's always nice to get other people's opinions out there, and people can share their conversation and story as it is. But you know what? All to this point, I wouldn't change it for the fucking world. The love is there, the commitment is there, everything is there now. It's now just watching her grow, and her hair, which is just going out of control. But there you go. Anyway guys, thank you so much for watching as always. If you like this kind of video, let us know, give it a massive like, and I'll see you soon.